the health officer is not able to be with us tonight, but we're going to give you an overview of where we are relative to the vaccinations. Hopefully we'll have that in your hot hands by at least when, Destiny?
We should have that by the end of the week.
Okay, all right. Thank you all so very, very much. And with that, we're going to move very swiftly into Mr. Walter Simmons, who's the Executive Director of Workforce Development. And we want to thank you so much for being here and giving us an overview. We got a wonderful presentation from Anne Arundel County, and it was strongly suggested that we hear from you, Mr. Simmons, relative to where we are with employment and the other things that are being offered through workforce development. So the show was all yours.
All right, thank you, and thank you for having me. I'm going to share my screen. And I will email you this over, Destiny. I'm not going to hit everything on the slide to stay within the 15 minutes, Senator Benson, so we can get you on and moving.
All right, thank you.
So as a quick overview, Prince George's County is one of the 12 workforce areas in Maryland. We are the second largest workforce system in Maryland. We serve traditionally over 30,000 job seekers and 4,000 businesses. What makes us very unique compared to other systems is we're the only community membership network in the country that operates as a workforce system. So we identified that there's about 175,000 people that need our services prior to the pandemic. We didn't have all of the fiscal resources. So we said, why not partner with our faith-based nonprofit, community-based organizations to meet our needs? What you see here is Senator Benson is a member of the Governor's Workforce Development Board, which I think is fantastic. We have been pushing to get more Prince George's County members on that board for the past 5 years. So thank you, Senator Benson. But the community network reports to the Prince George's County Workforce Board, which reports to the Maryland Department of Labor, which reports to the Governor's Workforce Development Board. Our community network surrounds around 2 current centers, American Job Center Largo, and then our Youth Career Center, which is the first youth career center in Maryland using that official workforce development operations. And then the end of this month, American Job Center National Harbor will be finished, and we'll be doing some kind of remote grand opening in March. And as an example of who's in these, when you see these numbers that I'm getting ready to present and who's providing these services, it's a mixture of community-based organizations, faith-based, nonprofit, libraries, government agencies, service providers, and educational institutions. And I provided an example of some of the partners that we work with. We contract, which means we fund over 60 different entities throughout Prince George's County to create our Prince George's County system. What was the COVID-19 impact? I provided some information here that I will, again, not touch every piece, but as you can see, we were in 2019, our annual unemployment was 3.8% with 19,000 people. And we saw lows in December of 19 of 3.2%. We were really headed in a magnificent direction related to unemployment. And then going into January, 3.6%. Then you see June, 10.1%. We actually got up to 10.9%. In December, preliminary numbers say we're at 8%, and our annual average is 8.1%. Why is that significant? Is during the Great Recession, our highest unemployment was 7.9%, and our highest annual average was 7.5%. So at 10.9 and the current average of 8.1, we have unemployment numbers that are greater than the Great Recession. Jobs. This is where you see how many, when we talk about, in our world, we call it employment, but the numbers that we tout, and you see the Washington Post articles and what the Economic Development Corporation talks about jobs. It's an employment number. I provided you what our numbers look like. I just want to highlight the quarterly average. 2018, 321,000 jobs. 2019, 324,000 jobs. And as the first 2 quarters are reported for 2020, we've lost 27,000 jobs. So as we talk about over the 5-year period from 2013 to 18, where we were the most growing jobs county in the region, we gained about 30,000 jobs. In a matter of the first 2 quarters of 2020, we lost all 5 years of our gains. Now, we think that's going to come back on like a V-shaped curve, but it is going to take several years for us to catch up to where we were at the end of last year. And Destiny, these are numbers that there's a lot more data, but I'll give it to you to send out. Monthly unemployment related to COVID. These are some of the key performance indicators that we're tracking. Again, the 8%. To give a number to what it feels like though, total unemployment claims, 289,000 claims. We represent 61% at that period of Maryland unemployment claims. And then total Maryland unemployment claims as of today is a little more, is a 1.9. Now, some of this data is different because the Maryland reports the data for a certain time period. We get data at certain time periods. So I'm giving you an overview of where we were at the beginning of January. Large company layoffs, 44. Why is that pertinent? We averaged 8 large company layoffs over the last few years. Last year, we jumped up to 44. Our county weekly kind of unemployment claims that we can see average, who's unemployed every week, 7,000 people that are new claims every week that we're kind of looking and bouncing back. And of course, some people roll off, roll back on. So it's a revolving number. It's not a unique group of people. So what are we doing from a job creation and upskilling? The first thing we did was create the COVID-19 Workforce Development Recovery Program. We have a COVID-19 response specialist and a COVID-19 job seeker relief assistant. We've been providing tuition assistance for people who want reskilling up to $5,000. And we've been providing on-the-job training, which we call Hire Prince George. It's how we attract people to hire Prince George County residents. We also are the only job center that's offering life coaching. We realized this people went from being employed to unemployed at no fault of their own, and they had to do a mental reset. We had people crying when they called us because they couldn't articulate what they were feeling. So we're actually offering life coaching to really help people recenter, to move forward mentally and understand what they need. And we're also providing mental health referrals to the health department. And we've seen an increase in people who are reporting symptoms of depression and suicide. So we report those to 911 and the health department. But because we had such a large increase, we contracted to offer life coaching to people who have been laid off. Career readiness training, basic skills training, and then supportive and wraparound services. Our wraparound services were probably the most popular this year. Our COVID-19 Hourly Employee Relief Fund, we provided $200 and $300 cards through January to 5,677 people. We had over 9,000 applications. And to date, that 5,000 people equated to $709,000 that we distributed, but we also at the end of the year added in coat drives through a partnership with Macy's and 600 free coats. These are some of those wraparound services. If you don't have gas or food, it's going to struggle to worry about getting a job or going to a training. So part of this was basically just to kind of help stabilize them in between their last work check and their first unemployment check, which we all know sometimes that was elongated. Business services, as a part of that program, we have business consultants and a COVID-19 business relief assistant. We average about 30 calls per day from businesses that are requesting assistance. We have our Hire Prince George's County, which is the on-the-job training program, where we reimburse businesses a portion of the salary of a new hire to kind of encourage them. And then we supplemented that with our rapid reemployment grants. We offer job posting, marketing, sourcing and recruitment, and resource navigation. Resource navigation means if they need a PPP loan, if they're looking for SBA, if they need assistance with DPI, we connect them to the appropriate county staff member county agency that they need to speak with. And then our rapid reemployment grants, again, we allocated much of our funding this year towards rapid reemployment grants. Senator Rosenpep is very familiar with this program. So we distributed on average we did over 60 days. That's where we actually incentivized businesses to hire unemployed Prince George's County residents, and an average of $6,854 per resident, and we gave an average of $18,908 per business. This was a grant, so it wasn't a loan. So this is money the business could keep. And to go back, so we distributed over $548,000 to businesses in Prince George's County over an 8-week period. Unfortunately, we had over 1.8 million in requests, and we distributed 548,000. This was a business in Bowie, Party HQ, that I'm sure we worked with 29 businesses and secured employment for 80 unemployed Prince George's County residents. Virtual service and business services as a total, a lot of people don't realize we touch a lot of businesses from March, during the pandemic, from March till February. We physically touched, or had a virtual conversation. We touched over 1,400 businesses. We provided referrals to those businesses of 1,900. Job creation, we posted 1,800 job openings, provided over 5,000 services, and have tracked 122 placements. We have more placements, but those placements are related to those job numbers. And as you saw, they're 6 months behind. We get that, we're normally 6 months behind by the time labor reports that data to us. Again, virtual services, we piloted the first virtual services in Maryland. Our virtual job center currently has had 8,689 people participate in the program. Of that, over 1,800 receiving services. For adults, 1,200 youth services, and then 5,500 other ranging services. We also have free virtual learning because a lot of our training providers shut down during COVID. So we actually have our own, Prince George's County has Skill Up Prince George's County, our own electronic learning management system for independent learning. We've had 185 users complete at least one course, total 557 users, and total active users as of today are 326 people. That's 326 people who are currently in some kind of post-secondary virtual training. What does this program look like? What does it look like? What do people see on our end? We have 5 what we call sector programs where we're working with businesses to identify what they need. That's hospitality, construction, IT, professional services, and healthcare. These are sector programs. We also have demographic specific programs. Our older workers program, which is services for job seekers 55 plus. Please don't get on me, everybody. My mother says I'm not, she said, don't call me old. This is what labor calls older job seekers. They call it the older workers program. It's not a name we came up with. We have our Pathway Success Reentry program and our Veterans Career Connections program. For our adults, for our youth, we have Knowledge Equals Youth Success, which is doing cohorts every 6 and 8 weeks. And our Youth Career Connections program. Probably most familiar with this is Senator Patterson. We do a lot of work down in Crossland, connecting juniors and seniors who are not on track for college to get into an apprenticeship or a local employment opportunity. We fund Latin American Youth Center to provide services to our Latino community. And then we have our Youth Career Center in Suitland. So I think overall, what we're seeing through the data of job creation, everything is slow. But I would like to say we're progressing. Of course, as you saw in the earlier numbers, is a fraction of the jobs that we had previously. But we do have, again, 30 businesses calling us daily. A lot of times they're looking for financial assistance, and we're providing that as needed. The bill you all passed that allocated workforce money is going to help us solve a huge deficit. To give you an idea, for unemployment, our funding is a year behind. So our funding for July from the federal government is going to be based on the unemployment number from 2019 at around 4%. And as you see, our current unemployment is around 8%. So we will have about half as much money as we have the need. We were preparing for a huge deficit. And so the bill and the funding that was approved will help us cover that deficit, be able to put more people through training to move forward. It's a slow process. It's a virtual process. As Senator Benson mentioned, we're addressing the digital divide. So we're providing loaner computers. We're providing hotspots. Some people are still struggling. They would rather wait till they can come in person. So we're really trying to work through and navigate it, but there's multiple efforts out there, and we are continuously trying to secure additional funding so we can put more people through training. Right now, we have over 200 people on a waiting list that are waiting to access a training to put those funds to use. A lot of it is budgetary concerns. Some of it is that some of the training providers that they go to have not converted to virtual services as of yet. But every 2 weeks, we're offering virtual job fairs and working with businesses to hire. So it's an ongoing process.
Senator Rosenberg has his hand up.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just wanted to, number one, give a shout out to Walter and his team, because they really helped us on a very short notice over about a 10-day period of time on the provision of our Recovery Now package that we passed on Friday that provides money to the workforce boards in the state, including, and most importantly, in Prince George's County. So Walter really helped us put that together and made that happen. So we're looking forward to that. The second thing I wanted to mention, and also Walter and his people have been working with me put together on the COVID response. And one of the other pieces of legislation coming out of that is a post-COVID jobs bill that is intended to go beyond what we did in the Recovery Now package to put more money into local workforce boards, including ours in Prince George's County, most importantly, to get more money into the kind of stuff that Walter and his team are doing. So I just want to thank him for that and just make other folks aware of what Senator Augustine and I have been working on.
Thank you.
This is a wonderful presentation. Wonderful. Does anyone else have questions that you want to ask? Senator Peters, do you all, do any of the senators have questions that you want to ask or a statement? Senator Griffin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I won't be long because I know we have a full agenda. I just wanted to, first of all, thank you, Walter, for your work in the county, and to ask you, I know that you all do some phenomenal work, and you mentioned your business partners. I'm curious, are you working with any other major entities or nonprofits that we should be aware of? Who are the partners that we should celebrate for working with you on this?
So we have Kaiser Permanente. We started a new program, Career Pathways for All, working on an inclusive economy for Prince George's County, including immigrants, refugees, English language learners, especially they've been hard hit during the pandemic. Kaiser Permanente actually gave us $75,000 to start putting those people into entry-level healthcare so that they can eventually work at Kaiser and not just get services from Kaiser. MGM is also working to put people back to work and putting some funding there. We also have CCAR, Central Kenilworth Avenue Redevelopment, Joe's Movement Emporium, have all worked from nonprofit. We actually piloted a program with 2U. 92% of all IT jobs are filled by white males in our region. And our IT businesses were complaining that for their federal contracts, they didn't have enough diversity to meet the contract. 2U said, well, if you're looking for diversity in people and talent, Prince George's County is where you can find diversity. We work with those nonprofits. We raised $80,000 in 2 months. We sent 22 African-American women, Latino women, and immigrants into Prince George's County residents into training, and they all have all had a scholarship to go through 6-month boot camps with the average wage after completion is $82,000. So those nonprofits helped us do that, and we really wanted to target low-income communities that normally don't get targeted from a George Washington level boot camp because they couldn't afford an $11,000 program. So those nonprofits, Senator Griffith, have been great. And to highlight, we're working with the Arts and Humanities for the first arts apprenticeship in Maryland coming from Prince George's County. So we have an apprenticeship navigator where we help local businesses because there's an apprenticeship tax credit that businesses can access on top of our hire Prince George County. So they can normally get around $10,000 to $12,000 in incentives to open an apprenticeship. So we're working with that right now with the Arts and Humanities Council.
Thanks. I wasn't fishing for that. I was actually listening for the community college to find out if you're doing work with the community college or any educational institutions, but I don't want to prolong.
No, you're fine. So the community college, we're actually working right now with the community college. Their transition to virtual has been challenging because people need practicing hours. We're actually talking with the community college and University of Maryland on virtual. The University of Maryland has their virtual reality department. Can people get those practicum hours? Is there an option to implement if they can't be in person, can they do it through virtual reality? So we're trying to explore all options, but you all don't want to go get your blood taken from a phlebotomist that's never actually put a needle in somebody's arm, or a CDL driver who's never actually driven. So there's some barriers with some of those workforce development trainings that require practical hours in a time where businesses are closed. Because normally we would do.
I'm good. Don't make me, because they're going to get me for extending the meeting and I got to leave early. So
you got it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Roosevelt, did you have another comment?
I apologize, Madam Chair. I wanted to ask Walter very briefly if you would explain this problem that we're trying to fix in this legislation. The other senators are aware of it, where you all don't get access directly to the folks who are unemployed to be able to do job matching. Would you just explain that to folks so they understand the problem?
Yeah, so unemployment is a federal grant, federal program administered by state labor, Maryland Department of Labor. And they haven't set up the protocols, and it's been dragging, that we can't just, when we see that 7,000 weekly claims, they can't just send us a spreadsheet of who those 7,000 people are so that we can email or call them to give them their $200 Visa card, or say, hey, you got laid off from Marriott. This hotel over here is hiring. Are you interested? So we're really trying to work to say, what is the difficulty just to get a spreadsheet of to know who those people are in our county so we can connect them to services immediately. Normally we get the information about 3 months after the claim.
And so we're getting an amendment drafted. I need to discuss it, particularly with Senator Benson and Senator Augustine, to add either to the unemployment insurance package that we're doing or to our jobs package to fix that.
Anything that we can do as a Senate, as senators, we are prepared to do it, Senator Roosevelt.
Thank you.
Whatever we need to do, let's get it done. That's a little crazy.
It is.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense. Okay. Are there any other questions? By the way, very glad to see Delegate Ivy and Delegate Alonzo Washington from the House of Delegates. Thank you all for being here tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation.
That's the way to get things done. All right. Are there any questions? Any comments? Thank you. Thank you so much for the work that you do for the people who really do. Now, this is dear to our hearts. It really is. We're interested in providing opportunities for you, talking about people who are unemployed, 8%, gone from 4% to 8%. Those are the people that are in our district. And we are prepared to do whatever is necessary to help you in any way that we can. We're available.
And we're available as well. If you're having community events or you know of a community event, our team has visited we've did over 600 community events in 2020. So don't think that we're virtual. We will attend your community event in your area. If needed, just let us know.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Thank you very much. We deeply appreciate it. Mr. Birch?
Yes.
Good evening. We have a document that we have prepared, and I think they're going to put it on the screen. But before I start, this information was prepared by.
Excuse me, hold a minute, Mr. Birch. Mr. Birch is from the he's the legislative manager, the Office of Public Analysis. Okay, thank you so much for being here tonight. We are so glad to see you.
Right. We have prepared a document that goes over the state funding for Prince George's County. And we want to touch on some highlights, some key fiscal issues confronting George's County. So can we put the report on the screen? Before I start, I do want to introduce Arnold Aja. He's the individual who helped pull all of this information together. He is a graduate of the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and he's working towards his Master of Public Policy at the University of Maryland in College Park. And he also put together some speaking points that we are going to be probably on Friday. He would be doing this presentation this evening, but due to some internet issues.
He's here. He's on board.
Right, but he has audio issues. So that's the reason. Anyway, we can start now. If you look on page 3 of the report, it shows.
Just 1 second. I'm going to pull it up for you. 1 second. Let me share my screen.
All right.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
So if we go to page 3 of the report, you can see that Prince George's County will receive around $1.6 billion in funding in fiscal 2022. This is around $1,700 on a per resident basis. You can see that Prince George's County receives the 7th highest amount aid on a per capita basis. 70% of state aid is allocated to local governments based on a local wealth measure. So jurisdictions with a larger tax base receives less state funding, and jurisdictions with a low tax base receive relatively a high level of state funding. If you turn to page 4, it breaks down the amount of funding that is provided by the different units of local government. And you can see that most of the state aid that will be provided to Prince George's County, around $1.3 billion, will go to the public school system. The Prince George's County government and the municipalities in Prince George's County will receive around $106 million in funding. Most of the funding at the county government level is provided for local highways. Highway funding in Prince George's County will total $14.4 million. There's around $15 million for police protection, around $5 million for targeted crime grants. The disparity grant program, which we will talk about in depth in a couple of minutes, it's around $32 million in funding for that. And the county would get around $28 million in gaming impact aid. If you go to page 6, it shows the year-over-year change in funding that Prince George's County will receive. You can see that the public school system will be receiving around $24.2 million additional funding. However, the county government will be receiving around $500,000 less in funding. And this issue is due to the fact that the governor vetoed House Bill 737, which was the enhancement for the disparity grant program. And under that legislation, Prince George's County would have received an additional $8 million in funding. But due to the veto, the annual funding under that program actually decreases this year by $4 million. The good news is that, as you know, the General Assembly overrid the governor's veto. However, the additional funds will not be available this year because you cannot mandate the governor to include the funds since the budget bill has already been introduced. Those funds will be available in fiscal 2023. So that is the one issue facing Prince George's County, is that their overall state funds at the county government level is actually lower this year. Another issue is, if you turn to page 8, the governor is proposing two reductions in state funding to local governments. One is a reduction under the Community College CADE program. Now, this is a statutory reduction over the amount of funding that should have been provided this year, and that totals around $26.6 million. Prince George's County share of this reduction is $4 million. Another proposal that the governor has is that he wants to increase the local share of property tax assessments. Right now, the state and local governments share 50-50 property tax assessments. In 2022, he wants the local governments to pay 60%, which would require another $4 million in local cost. The Prince George's County cost will be $500,000, around $500,000. By 2025, he wants the local governments to pay 90% of property assessment cost. And there, Prince George's County will have to pay another $2 million to the state to cover property tax assessments. But both of those provisions will require the General Assembly to approve legislation. So the governor cannot just do this through the budget bill. He needs General Assembly approval in order to do that. If we move on to page 12, we will just highlight some of the funding for public safety that's going to be provided to Prince George's County. Prince George's County would get around $14.9 million under the police aid formula. And the police aid formula provides most of the funding based on population density, in which more urbanized jurisdictions like Prince George's receives a higher per capita grant. In addition, around 5% of the funding is allocated to municipalities based on the number of their sworn officers. On page 14, you can see that Prince George's County will be provided around $5 million in targeted crime grants under 3 programs dealing with drug enforcement, violent crime, and for the state's attorney's office. There is additional funds for statewide programs, around $15.4 million, and Prince George's County can also qualify to receive some of those funds based on applying for grants. On page 17 and 19, it provides information on transportation aid. And if you go to page 19, it shows you that Prince George's County's share of the Highway User Revenue Program. And as you can see that the county government will receive around $6.7 million for highways. These funds are used to maintain locally controlled roads in Prince George's. These are not used to maintain state highways or interstates. These are only local roads. The municipalities in Prince George's would get $7.8 million for their roads. If you turn to page, page 22, it will show you the impact of the disparity grant program. And here it shows you the impact of the governor's veto. So you can see that in last year, Prince George's County received around $36 million in the disparity grant program. And what this program does is it provides 10 jurisdictions in Maryland that has a per capita revenue collection from the local income tax that's below 75% of the state average. Maryland is one of the few states that allows local governments to impose a local income tax. And therefore, many jurisdictions in Maryland has a relatively low income tax base. And what the state does with this program is it provides funding to the county government to kind of offset the lower tax basis from the income tax. And as you can see that in 2022, funding under the program declined to $32 million. And the reason for that was that there is a minimum grant amount under the program. And the minimum grant amount was extended to around 68% through 2021. However, beginning in fiscal 2022, the minimum grant amount declined to 60%. So we knew last year that this was going to occur, that Prince George's County and the other disparity grant counties were going to get a reduction in their funding. So the General Assembly passed House Bill 737. And as you can see that under House Bill 737, the funding for the jurisdictions would have gone from 67.5% to 75%. So Prince George's County was scheduled to receive around $40 million in the disparity grant program, which was $8 million more than they're getting this year. And that was, the funding was not provided because the governor last year vetoed the bill. However, the General Assembly has overridden the governor's veto. However, these funds are not in the budget bill for this year. So these funds will not be available until next year. So in fiscal 2023, Prince George's will receive an additional $8 million under the program. Now, the governor still has the ability to provide the $8 million through a supplemental budget, but that will be up to the governor's discretion to do so. On page 25 is another program that benefits Prince George's County, and that is the Gaming Impact Aid Grants. And you can see that under this program, $28.3 million will be provided to Prince George's County. There is one provision relating to gaming impact grants, and that is a hold harmless provision that you may well know that is provided to Anne Arundel County. This hold harmless provision was put in place so that the local impact aid grants that Anne Arundel County receives through their VLTs in fiscal 2016 does not go below that level. And that is the year before which the casino in Prince George's County operated. So that hold harmless grant is around $3.9 million, and it comes from the Prince George's County share of their gaming impact aid grant. So the overall amount that the state allocates doesn't change because of the hold harmless grant. That money comes from the Prince George's County share. So now we're going to briefly move to the education aid for Prince George's County. Just one second. I'm having some computer issues myself. So you can see that on page 27, around 80% of state aid to Prince George's County goes to the public school system. And you can see that the Prince George's public school system will receive around $1.3 billion in direct aid. This is a $24 million increase, or a 1.9% increase from the prior year. One of the major things that is happening this year in education aid deals with the movement to the virtual learning. That has resulted in a significant decrease in student enrollment this year. And in fact, if you turn to page 33 of the report, due to the substantial decrease in student enrollment, the education aid formulas are projecting a nearly $200 million decrease in funding over the amounts that was provided last year. So we're going to show you in a couple of exhibits how significant these enrollment decreases have been. So to protect the local school system's funding from this one-time decrease in formula aid, and you can see that in Prince George's County, realized the biggest impact of nearly $84 million in your education aid would have gone down this year without the hold harmless grants that the governor has put in through the blueprint funds. So the impact of COVID-19 and the transition to virtual learning has had a pretty significant impact on student enrollment. And if we can just briefly touch on that before we close, if you go to page 43, you can see that Prince George's had the second highest drop-off in student enrollment compared with the prior year. Nearly 3,000 less students. I'm on page 43, I'm sorry. Oh, right. You can see there that Prince George's had like a 3,100 student drop off, which represented a 2.4% decrease in student enrollment. Overall, statewide, FTE student enrollment is down 2.3%. So that is fairly significant. The one jurisdiction that had an increase was Dorchester County, and in Baltimore City, which historically has been realizing a decrease in student enrollment, their enrollment was almost flat. So some school systems has realized a less of a decrease in their student enrollment. And if you go to the next page, on page 44, Prince George's County also realized a significant decrease in your number of students approved for free reduced price meals. It was like a 14% decrease in Prince George's County, which is one of the largest decreases in the state. So these are some of the issues right now confronting Prince George's County. And without that hold harmless grant provided by the governor for the blueprint funds, Prince George's schools will be looking at an $80-some million decrease in their formula aid. So with that, there's a lot more information that we have in our report, and Arnold has did a pretty good job at providing information, and we'll be sending that to you as well.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay, Delegate Ivy?
Thank you, Madam Senator, and I really am appreciative of your invitation to this all. Mr. Burrs, thank you. Of course, you've always been so willing to give individuals this briefing. You talked a little bit about the disparity grant adjustments that were made. Could you talk to us about the formula for the disparity grant? I see that Baltimore City receives about, twice as much as we do from that. And I assume that it's because of our property assessment. And I really apologize, but if you could also touch on the impact of free and reduced lunch students being decreased and how that impacts our education formulas as well. And Senator Benson, thank you for the invitation.
Okay, if we can turn to page 21 of the report, it kind of shows you the calculation.
1 second. You said page 21?
Yes, 21.
All right.
What this program does is it looks at each jurisdiction's revenue collections from the income tax and puts it on a per capita basis. And you can see that the fourth column, when you see the per capita tax yield, statewide, the per capita tax yield from the local income tax is around $790. 75% of that is around $600. So what the program does, it guarantees each jurisdiction enough money that raises their per capita tax yield to the $593 level. So jurisdictions like Baltimore City that has a lower net taxable income than Prince George's County receives more funding. Now, what happened was that in fiscal 2010, the General Assembly imposed a cap. You can see that we have a column that shows the fiscal 10 cap amount, which stated that you could not receive any more funding under this program than you did in FY 2010. That created a lot of different distortions. It kind of locked in some inequities. So the General Assembly changed the law in 2013 to establish a minimum funding level. And the minimum funding level guarantees jurisdictions a certain percentage. Currently, it's at 60%. The House Bill 737 raised that to 75%. And so that's the big difference between Prince George's County not receiving their $8 million. House Bill 737 would have based it on 75% of your formula amount. The governor vetoed that. And so the previous law was 60%. So that was a big difference between the the formula. But like I said, by the General Assembly overriding that veto, those funds will be available next year.
Thank you so much, Mr. Birch.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Birch, thank you all. Thank you, AJ. I'm just really, really pleased with the presentation. Thank you all so much. You all have any questions? Do the senators have any questions, any comments? Thank you so much. The presentation is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, no other questions? Okay, looks like we're moving along very nicely here. Do we have the presentation? Was that given to us? Mr. Birch, was that presentation given to us?
Yes, we sent the presentation to your delegation staff, and it's also on our website. And
Okay.
tonight will be mailed to your delegation on Friday. We're still in the process of having them finalized. So you will
Okay.
have all of our speaking points that Mr. Aja put together for you.
You wonderful person. Mighty wonderful.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. So he's doing a great job for the General Assembly. So we're really proud of him.
He's you're a breath of fresh air. Thank you so much. All right, with that, I think we can close that particular part. Okay, now we're moving down to the presentation by senators. And looks like we're going to be able to finish here within the hour. I want to bring to your attention the proposed 5 local bills that we'll be looking at that's been presented to the senators for our consideration. The bills and the bill numbers and the synopsis are included in your handout. What we would like for the senators to do is to take a look at these bills. And Destiny, do you want to make a comment within the next couple of weeks? We want to have a hearing. It seems to me that a couple of these bills have already had a hearing on the House side. So what we want to do is we want to look at these bills and make a decision as to whether or not we support and don't support. Is that satisfactory with the senators? Is that a good strategy? I hear nothing from the senators, so I'm assuming.
That sounds good. That sounds good to me, Madam Chair. That sounds good.
All right. Senator Augustine, what do you think?
I think that sounds like a sound plan.
All right. Isn't it nice that they're so agreeable? Thank you so much. Really.
Amen.
Okay, so we're going to look at these 4 pieces of legislation, and if you have other issues, local pieces of legislation, or any piece of legislation that you would like for the senators to take a look at, I think the next meeting will be pretty much confined to dealing with the pieces of legislation that are before you here. Okay, now, is there anything else that we need to be talking about tonight that should be brought to our attention? Any subject matter that you think we need to have a hearing on, a presentation on, we would like for you to give that information to Destiny. And I want to thank you all for the way that you've been cooperating. And I'm also very impressed with the way that this agenda has been set forth. It shows our cute pictures and everything. I want to thank Destiny for the wonderful job that she is doing so far. She's sitting in on meetings and she's giving us feedback, and we are going to also do like a one-pager on the implications of the blueprint. That should be in your hand before the end of the week. Anything else you think we ought to be doing so that we can keep our senators together and keep our senators informed, we want to do that. I also want to tell you that the reason why Senator Penske and Senator Patterson are not with us at this point is because they're having a voting session.
Madam
So
Chair,
is there anything else that we need to be talking about tonight that should
Madam
be
Chair,
our attention?
Ma-
Senator Augustine?
yeah, Madam Chair, I just wanted to just agree with you. I have found the presentations that we have received thus far to be very informative, and I've learned a lot, and I feel like they have just been very helpful. So I just wanted to just, say that thus far they really have been really well put together, and I really appreciated them. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that. And we really need to thank Destiny because she is in constant contact with Senator Patterson and me, and we work very well together. And I really want her to know that we deeply appreciate the because that's important.
It's my pleasure. You all are a joy to work with.
Senator Roosevelt?
I just want to say amen.
Okay. Is there anything else that we need to be talking about? It's almost 7 o'clock, and we did pretty good tonight. All right. So thank you all. It's going to, I understand we're going to have a heavy snowstorm tomorrow. It's going to snow all day long and into the night and whatever. But I want you all to be careful. And I want to thank you all so much for the support that you've given me. If you haven't lost a loved one as close and dear to you as my sister was to me, you just can't begin to understand the depth of my sadness. It's been a hard struggle for me for the last 3 or 4, well, actually the last 6 weeks. To see my sister just completely disappear, it's been very hard. But with the help and support of many of you, your prayers, your thoughts, it's just been wonderful. And I want you all to know that I deeply and profoundly appreciate what you have done. And I want you to know that I value your friendship. And there's not a day going by that I don't pray for you, because that's very important. It's very important to me personally that I pray for the people that I work with. I pray for us down here because this is not an easy job. And then you have to deal with the stuff that's going on back home, trying to get our little senior citizens vaccinated. I'm telling you, I have a little lady who's 102 years old, and we've been trying for 2 weeks to get her vaccinated. The waiting list of our senior citizens and our little people has just been so difficult. And I want to thank you all, because I know that people don't have enough sense to say thank you sometimes, but the Lord sees and he thanks you. This is a hard, busy job, but we have to do it. We have to do it because the people back home, the little folks, the people who can't speak for themselves, the people that Jim Roosevelt has in his heart, working for the unemployed, being sure that things are in place. I could go on talking about, talk about you all night long. I know you don't want to hear it, but you need to hear it, because when people see you walking around, they think this is a fluff job. This is not a fluff job. This is a hard job. There are nights that we don't even sleep. We walk the floor wondering what we could do that's better for the little people that we serve. So I want to say thank you from the depths of my heart. And if there's anything that I can do, if I'm not doing this job right, as the chair of the senators for Prince George's County, I want you all to come to me and tell me, or remove me and put somebody else in this position who can do the job better. I want you to know it's in my heart to do what is right. So I thank you all. I love you, a bushel and a peck, and a hug around you. And be careful, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
We love you too, Senator
Thank you.
Dixon.
Thank you. Good night.
Love you.
Good night.